Welcome to the Genius Way Show with your host, Ben Hummell. The aim of this show is to provide education, encouragement, and insights for people who are on their own personal development journeys. As a psychotherapist, teacher, author, and creator of the Genius Way process, Ben will focus on identifying common challenges to living a purposeful life, and will share valuable psychological and spiritual tools to help you make healthy and empowering life changes. We hope you enjoy the show.
Hey friends, welcome to the Genius Way Show. I'm your host, Ben Hummell. It's great to be here with you this week as we talk about the hidden opportunity in times of difficulty. So, most human beings will fall into one of two camps here in terms of, the basic idea of what we're doing here. One is that, basically one camp is, stuff happens to us and, it's pretty much either good luck or bad luck, and there's not a lot we can do about it. And that's kind of just the way it is. It's sort of just, life just sort of happens to me, and I just deal with it in the best way that I can, or maybe not in the best way. So that's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is that we are actually here to grow. We're actually here to develop and become deeper human beings and wiser and more, developed as a human being. And that experiences are here to help us in that endeavor, right? So which one of those things do you fall in? My guess is if you found this show and if you've watched this show before, you're going to fall into the second category where you pretty much assume things happen for my betterment. Things happen to make me all those things that I just mentioned, to help me on my path of personal development, whatever that is for you. Okay. So if that's true, let's say most of my viewers are in that camp. I'm here. Things are happening so that they can help me to grow and develop as a human being. If that's the case, then everything that happens to us, we can see in that light. We can kind of take a look at it in the light of, oh, okay, this is happening here for my benefit. There's a saying that says, everything is cooperating with me and everything is happening and the odds are stacked in my favor. Okay, that's one way to see this. But how do you say that the odds are stacked in my favor when you get sick, or when you lose something or someone, or when you get faced with a very, very challenging, difficult, scary situation? So that's the time when the rubber meets the road. That's the time when this philosophy of life is here to help me. That's when that really comes in, when that really needs to kick in. And that means that you have to rise to meet that occasion with that I'm not going to say attitude, but with that kind of direction, that kind of focus, where this is happening for my benefit. So a while ago, I was in a spiritual community, and I was kind of doing, teaching and, kind of counseling and mentoring. That was part of my role. And at this one point, there's this one person, let's just call them Jane, okay? Jane, you know who you are. And so Jane was kind of, what you would call an odd duck. And I had to encounter her many, many times throughout the day and week. And there was just no way of getting around being with Jane, okay? And I didn't understand Jane. Jane had a personality and a way of doing things that I just did not get. And it wasn't fun to be around Jane. It wasn't fun to, kind of always have to kind of wonder what was going to happen next. But the only way I realized that I could be around her and to function and to actually grow, which was, something that I already knew this is what I'm here for, was to completely kind of pan out and expand my way of seeing her. Like I had never met anyone like that before. And I wanted her to fit into a smaller box that I already understood, but she didn't. And so my opportunity, my hidden opportunity was I've got to expand more to allow this kind of person to exist in my idea of the world, and the resisting of allowing her to be just as she was, the resistance of that was very hard. But once I expanded and said, yes, this can happen too. Now you can have these, type of people in your world that you don't understand, but you can grow and expand to accept it. Everything became a lot easier. And I've used that technique till this day, especially with some clients that I work with that, I meet all kinds of clients. And, some of them are coming from different backgrounds of all kinds that I've never experienced before. Some people have different, psychological conditions that I haven't experienced before. And I've used that idea of like finding the hidden opportunity to expand beyond what I think the world is, to allow the fact that, yes, this also exists in the world and it can come into my field. It can come into my field, just like, loss and sickness and also success and also, big accomplishment and big surprises, so the thing is that no matter what comes into your field of experience, beyond the obvious, there's another layer of opportunity there for personal growth, right? And this opportunity there has to be sought out because it's not always going to be right in your face. What's going to be in your face mostly is, oh, shit, my car just drove off the side of the road and I blew out 2 tires. Okay, here I am sitting in a ditch on the side of the road when I'm late for an appointment. Okay, that's what it's going to present as. And you can look at that and say, well, that's just dumb luck. But what would be the experience or the opportunity there? What might be the opportunity? Now, look, I'm not just trying to say, just be an optimist and everything's great. No, it sucks. You drove off the side of the road and now you got to buy 2 new tires and you're stuck there and you don't know how to get out of it. Something is happening in that moment that's not seen. But to see it, you have to expand to the point where you get past just the obvious, this is awful. This shouldn't happen. So I just want to ask you, do you remember anything like this happening before? And then obviously something as an occurrence after this situation happened, something happened that was like kind of miraculous to you. Like maybe you met somebody at the the tow truck place, or maybe you were delayed that much and the meeting never happened and you didn't need to be there in the first place, or anything. You guys, you've had stuff like that happen. So, but the opportunity wasn't seen until after the event. So what I'm suggesting here as a personal development tool is to start to be aware that even in the face of difficulty, right in that second, even in the face of something that's challenging for you, in that second, if you look at it with a different lens, and maybe the lens of wisdom, knowing that this has happened before, but with a different lens where something is giving me an opportunity here in this difficulty that no amount of ease or success could give me. When we have difficulties or challenges, we have to go out of our comfort zone in order to deal with them, and certainly that is an opportunity there to expand, to grow, to be more conscious, to use skills and hone skills that we don't necessarily get to use when everything's just hunky-dory and everything's going great. So, I guess what it's saying, instead of like waiting until after that difficulty, and after that experience is gone, instead of waiting to say, wow, well, now I see why that happened, to assume that, okay, the quality of the universe, the quality of existence has these hidden gifts inside of the difficulties. And I don't know what this gift is yet, but I know that if I can stay long enough and hang in long enough and watch it and approach this with fresh eyes instead of like, instead of like, oh my God, not again. If I can approach it with fresh eyes, I'm going to change and my experience is going to be different. And I'm going to receive a teaching that I couldn't have gotten any other way. So let's take a look at this little video here about this subject. And on the other side, we'll come in and we'll dig into this subject a bit more. Take a look.
When the gusts of change start to howl, do some folks erect barriers while others construct turbines? A thought to mull over as we journey through the annals of history, exploring how hardship, often deemed a hindrance, can harbor chances for the brave who strive to uncover them. Picture this: the late 20th century Apple Inc., once a tech titan, is on the verge of bankruptcy. Yet amidst this crisis, Steve Jobs, the company's co-founder, views an opening. He returns to Apple after a 12-year absence and works to revitalize the company. His efforts lead to the creation of groundbreaking products like the iPod, iPhone, and iPad, turning Apple into one of the most valuable companies in the world. This transformation underlines the might of converting hardship into opportunity. Now, let's hop over to the tale of J.K. Rowling in the early 1990s. Unemployed, divorced, and raising a child on her own, she saw herself as a failure. Yet it was during this period of personal adversity that she penned the first Harry Potter novel, sparking a literary phenomenon. Rowling turned her struggles into a story that enchanted the world, proving that setbacks can be the stepping stones to success. From there, let's zoom into the life of Elon Musk. In 2008, his company SpaceX had 3 failed launches, and he was on the brink of bankruptcy. Instead of throwing in the towel, Musk saw an opportunity to innovate and improve. The next launch was a success, securing a contract with NASA, and SpaceX became a key player in the space industry. Musk's story demonstrates that even in the face of failure, there's always a chance to soar higher. So what lessons do these narratives from history impart? They emphasize that hardship is not a cul-de-sac, but an intersection. It's a point where we can choose to erect barriers or construct turbines. It's a moment where we can opt to see the finish line or a fresh start. It's tempting to view hardship as a purely negative, as a hurdle too lofty to leap. But these historical instances remind us that it's amidst challenges that we often uncover the most significant opportunities. Jobs' Apple, Rowling's Harry Potter, Musk's SpaceX. They all faced seemingly insurmountable hurdles. But instead of capitulating to their situations, they chose to seek the chances hidden within their hardships. They opted to construct turbines when the gusts of change howled. Remember, hardship is not something to be dreaded, but rather, it's an opportunity to learn, grow, and innovate. So the next time you encounter a challenge, ask yourself, will I erect a barrier, or will I construct a turbine? Because within every hardship, there lies an opportunity just waiting to be unearthed.
Yeah, we're back. So to go further down the road with this idea, we have to mention a guy named Viktor Frankl. Hopefully you guys know about him. He was a psychologist, and he came up with the idea of and the practice of logotherapy, mostly from his experiences as a kid in Nazi Germany in a prison camp. So Victor, basically he wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning, and through his experiences there, he discovered a really amazing truth. And here's a quote for him. He says, "Everything can be taken from you, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way." So when it comes to this topic we're talking about here, we have the ability to see things in whatever way we want to see them. I had to laugh at one point. I had a friend. I used to sing a lot and play guitar, and I thought I was pretty good. Of course I did. And there happened to be another singer that I met, and we had quite a time figuring out who was going to be like the lead, because each one of us thought quite a bit of ourselves, and it wasn't until I was able to kind of let go of that role of having to be the lead that we were able to kind of, do something that was actually more constructive and actually get some music done, So we have a way of changing how we're approaching things, how we're seeing things, and the way we, deal with certain situations. That's our great power there. And so not everything has to be as it seems on the outset. In fact, most of the time it's just not. Okay. So no matter what you're experiencing, there is a hidden opportunity in your experience, and developing the knack of looking for that opportunity is what today's show is about. And this is like a life skill. To be able to see the hidden opportunity in any circumstance is a life skill that when you develop it, your life takes on a whole different dimension, because no longer are you going from difficulty to difficulty to difficulty, waiting for a break and not feeling like you ever get one, but you're seeing your experiences in a different way. So our friend Lao Tzu from the Tao Te Ching, from Taoism, Lao Tzu says that, life, or human life, the condition of human life is having difficulties. Difficulties come from having a body. Without a body, how could there be any difficulties, right? So he says you have to accept, having difficulties as the human condition. And so difficulties are only on one side. On the other side of the difficulty, there is a solution. On the other side of the difficulty, there's an opportunity. And if you're, again, in that second camp of people, like I was talking about before, your life is not just about how to get through difficulty. It's about how to turn something into something beautiful, how to turn your life into something really, really beautiful, rewarding, amazing, and a impetus for personal growth. So that quote from Viktor Frankl about choosing the way that you see things, choosing your own way of perceiving any given situation, that's what I'm talking about here in terms of like what there is to be developed in us. So nobody says that when, we use that example before, when you run off the road and you blow both of your tires, nobody says that has to be a terrible experience. So sure, you're going to blow your tires, you're going to be off the road, you're going to be, oh man, okay. All right. After you get over that one, then you get to see, okay, what can I do here? What's my next step? What is the best thing for me to, emotionally get out of this ditch first? And when you can do that, all kinds of amazing synchronicities and different ways of approaching this very amazing experience start showing up, just because you've created an openness in your life for this not to just be, this is just a sucky experience. This is actually something that's going to help me grow and develop. Okay. But I know in the beginning, it's terrible. It feels crappy. We're not going to deny that. That's not the point, and, the point of this show today is about finding another way to address the things that just, on their face look really crappy. So I wanted to do this today. Instead of doing a guided visualization, what I'm going to do, I'm going to read you a story, and it's by one of my favorite authors, Tom Robbins. And he wrote this little short story as an addendum to his book. And the book is called Tibetan Peach Pie. It's just some various writings, but there's a story about Tibetan peach pie that goes right along with this topic today. And so let's take a short commercial break, and then I'll come back and I'll read you the story, and then we'll have another chance to dive into this subject. See you on the other side.
Ben Hummell's writing comes from a deep well of experience, practice, and wisdom. The Genius Way teaches you the life skills you need to find your own unique genius. Summoning Genius helps readers to turn a midlife crisis into an opportunity for personal growth. You can find Ben's books on thegeniusway.com, Amazon, and most online booksellers.
Some years ago, in a small Midwestern city, a man, we'll call him Hanson, owned a successful lumber yard. Hanson was ordinary in almost every respect, or he was until while on a business trip to Chicago, an affluent wholesaler of building supplies introduced him to fine dining. The meal astonished Hanson. He had no idea that food, which he had previously thought of as little more than fodder, could look so beautiful or taste so different, so grand. Captivated, the following evening he returned to the restaurant on his own, and the next night as well. Before long, Hanson was finding reason to visit Chicago on a fairly regular basis, trips that persisted until he'd sampled all the best dishes in all the best restaurants in town. Then he drove to Minneapolis a few times and did the same thing there. After that, he worked his way through every premium menu in St. Louis, Kansas City, and Detroit, although as his palate became gradually more sophisticated, the haute cuisine of the Midwest was no longer haute enough for his taste, and pickings became increasingly slim. Moreover, these gourmet forays were expensive, and he'd been neglecting his business. Still, Hanson was a man obsessed. He read gourmet magazines cover to cover, watched Julia Child on TV religiously, and when he learned of some especially great item at some reputedly great restaurant in Los Angeles or New York, why, he just had to fly there and try it. Fed up with his 3-star appetite and his dead star finances, his wife flew the coop. He mourned for 2 weeks. Then, mortgaging the lumber yard and his house, he turned his attention to Europe. At last, after numerous pilgrimages to France, Italy, Switzerland, and Spain, Hanson found himself living alone in a scruffy little mouse-chawed motel, boiling ramen noodles on a single burner hot plate. But he was content in the belief that he had tasted, at least once, every signature dish of every celebrated chef in the world. There were no fabulous menus left to conquer, no legendary delicacy that had not rung at least once his gastronomic bell. Then he heard about Tibetan peach pie. The reports were from impeccable and independent sources. 2 internationally renowned gourmets who seldom agreed on anything, yet were as harmonious as they were adamant in claiming that Tibetan peach pie to be both the most rare and the most exquisite fare ever to light up their taste buds, their gullets, their very beings. Galvanized by their rhapsodizing, Hanson simply could not be at peace until he, too, had joined the Epicurean elite, the exclusive company that had managed to savor what was alleged to be some sort of culinary nirvana, the end of all earthly delights. Hanson sold his hot plate, his bicycle, and his winter coat, and coaxed a small loan from his ex-brother-in-law, the one who'd wound up with the lumber yard. Pooling the meager proceeds, he bought a passage on a tramp freighter. After a vexing month during which he was persistently seasick, the ship deposited him at a port near the mouths of the Ganges. From there, he took a slow, sweltry, curry-stinking train, 3rd class all the way, to a remote village in the Himalayan foothills, where he bargained for the services of a cut-rate Sherpa. Their ascent took days. The trail, what there was of a trail, growing steeper, more rugged, until the insufficiently paid guide had had enough. Alone now, a savage snow-sequined wind ripping to tatters his thin jacket, Hansen continued up the mountain. By the time the trail petered out altogether, he was clawing his way over ice and rocks that ripped the nails from his bloody fingers, reduced his shoes to their laces. When finally he caught sight of the lamasery, he didn't dash for it. He couldn't. Bleeding, frostbitten, half blind, half starved, and struggling to breathe, he traveled the final 100 yards on his hands and knees. At the lamasery entrance, he was too weak to pull open the heavy door. But after an hour or so, someone heard his whimpers, his moans, and let him in. He then crawled to a table and pulled himself slowly, painfully, up onto a rough wooden bench. A lama came over. In a barely audible voice, gasping as he spoke, Hansen croaked, "Tibetan peach pie." The lama shook his head. "So sorry," he said. "We're all out of the peach pie." Hansen did not miss a beat. "Okay," he said with a bright little smile. "Make it apple." Yeah, so what would you do if you were Hansen in that circumstance? Okay, that's a pretty amazing story, and it's really a good illustration of seeing what we can do with any given circumstance. So with Hansen, even though he had made that whole trek up to the top of the Himalayas and got the news that what he was looking for and come so far for wasn't available, he didn't skip a beat. He just said, "Okay, that's good. I'll have apple. No big deal." And so his distress, his difficulty was not the same as what it might have been for someone who was insisting that the peach pie was in that day. So just because there's a difficulty, just because there is a circumstance, it's not written in stone how you have to experience it. That's the whole point here. It's not written in stone how you have to experience that thing. And every time that you kind of approach something with that openness, with that curiosity, that interest of, wow, does this have to be like this? Must I be upset about this? Must I suffer in this difficulty? Must I, go through this as if it's a crisis? No, I don't. It's not necessary. So again, in all honesty, when we have difficult situations, it kind of hits us like a ton of bricks, right? We're not going to be as fast as Hansen there in that story, but we can get around to it pretty quickly if we practice that. So this is a life skill to practice. And again, it's not just putting lipstick on a pig, okay, or polishing a turd. That's not what this is. It's like shifting the way that you're seeing the experience, because like Viktor Frankl said, it is, finding your own way. It is being able to choose your own way of seeing things in any given circumstance. That's the big freedom we have here. And most of us don't use it. That we have a difficult experience and we just accept, well, I guess I'm going to have to be sad or angry or upset or, horrified or whatever. Okay. And again, some of those emotions might be there, but there's more to it than that. If you're somebody who uses this life for personal development, there's always more than the initial feeling. That's the key here. So I just mentioned the word crisis. The first book I wrote, Summoning Genius, is about midlife crises in people. And one of the beautiful things that you can take out of the word crisis, it comes from a Greek word, which kind of means the time of choice, a decision, right? And so when you're experiencing some kind of crisis, don't forget, it's an opportunity to make a choice. And we do have that choice to make any experience really crappy, or actually waiting to make the final judgment on what that experience is, just waiting till later. I don't know what that experience is going to turn out to be. I might end up, that might be the best thing that ever happened to me. That might be that difficulty could be the thing that kind of took me out of a really crappy situation. And again, for me, that's happened to me a zillion times where, wow, this is the most terrible thing that can happen, and ended up being such a blessing. And oh man, I am so happy that I had the difficulties that I did have back in the day that pointed me to where I'm at now. Oh my God, it is such a huge blessing. And I think you could probably relate to that. You probably have a nice handful of situations and things that you can see that actually turned out much better, even though you didn't like it to begin with. You were upset about it, and it wasn't good to begin with. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. Having the foresight to remember that whenever a difficulty pops up, like, wait a minute, before I judge this thing, let me open up to see what this is going to offer me eventually, right? After I get over my initial upset, let me open up and see what this is going to be about as it develops, and as I use it to grow and deepen and become more wise. Okay, good. So let's take another little commercial break, and then I'm going to come back and send you on your way with some words of inspiration.
Hi, I'm Phil Masiello, and I'm the host of Think, Engage, Thrive, where we talk entrepreneurship and startups. Join me Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Achieve TV network for the best and most fun startup advice on the planet. Join us right here on E16 TV.
Every difficulty holds a hidden opportunity for personal growth and development. Whenever you encounter a challenging experience, try not to settle for the first judgment you have of the situation. Instead, remember how many times in your life something that actually looked really bad turned out to be a great blessing. The life skill to develop is to bring that awareness to the present and be open to the possibilities that may be hidden right in front of you. Yes, that's our show for this week. I hope you found something valuable for your personal life journey in this show, and I really encourage you to take it with you in your daily life, practice it, develop the skill, make it part of your own, and develop it as a personal life skill. So, okay, here is your self-inquiry journal prompt for this week. Think of a difficulty you're currently experiencing in your life and explore what hidden opportunity is within that difficulty. Okay? You got it? Good. All right, until next week, I want to invite you to stay curious, be kind to yourself, and remember that your genius has something to say.
Thanks for watching The Genius Way Show with Ben Hummell. Make sure to visit thegeniusway.com for the resources you need to help you on your personal life journey. You can contact Ben at ben@thegeniusway.com. And you can follow The Genius Way with Ben Hummell on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Thanks for streaming The Genius Way Show with Ben Hummell.